Captain Vexhai pressed his scaled hands against the viewing screen of his ship. The stars looked different here, colder somehow. His research vessel, the Silent Current, drifted slowly through what used to be a human colony called New Geneva. Now it was just broken metal and frozen air floating in space. "Captain, we are picking up something strange," said his science officer, Kethra. Her voice carried worry. "There is a small object about 2 kilometers away. It might be a ship." Vexhai turned to look at her. The Ketherans were a peaceful people. They traveled the galaxy to learn about other worlds and help where they could. Finding wreckage was nothing new, but something in Kethra's voice made him pay attention. "Show me," he said. The main screen changed to show a small damaged pod tumbling slowly through space. It was clearly human-made, with their strange love of sharp angles and bright colors. But this pod was barely holding together. Holes covered its surface, and one side was completely burned black. "Are there any life signs?" Vexhai asked. Kethra worked at her station for a moment. "Yes, Captain, very weak, but there is someone alive in there." Vexhai felt his heart speed up. The attack on New Geneva had happened 3 months ago. Everyone said no one survived. The Zephyrian Empire had made sure of that, but here was proof that someone had lived through it all. "Bring us closer," he ordered. "Prepare the medical bay, and send a message to the pod. Maybe they can hear us." The Silent Current moved carefully toward the damaged escape pod. As they got closer, they could see more details. The pod's windows were cracked and ice covered most of its surface. Inside, they could barely make out a human figure not moving. "Human vessel, this is Captain Vexhai of the Catheran ship Silent Current." He spoke into his communication device. "Can you hear us? We are here to help." No answer came back. "The pod's communication system is dead," Kethra reported. "But the human inside is still alive. Barely." "Then we bring them aboard," Vexhai said without thinking twice. Some of his crew looked worried. The Zephyrians had destroyed New Geneva because they said humans were dangerous. But Vexhai had studied humans for years. They were not monsters. They were just people trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. The rescue took 2 hours. The Silent Current's tractor beam pulled the damaged pod into their cargo bay. Then Vexhai and his medical team had to cut through the twisted metal to reach the human inside. When they finally opened the pod, they found a young human male in a torn military uniform. His name tag read, Morrison. He was unconscious and barely breathing. His skin was pale and he felt cold to the touch. "Get him to medical bay now," ordered Dr. Weltar, the ship's doctor. "This human is dying." They carried Jake Morrison to the medical bay and placed him on the treatment table. Dr. Weltar had never treated a human before, but he had studied their biology. He worked quickly, using Catheran medical technology to heal the human's damaged body. For 3 days, Jake Morrison lay unconscious. Vexhai visited him often, wondering what this human had seen. What had happened during the attack on New Geneva? How had he survived when everyone else died? On the 4th day, Jake's eyes opened. He looked around the medical bay with confusion and fear. The walls were curved and smooth, not like any human ship. Strange symbols covered the control panels and the air smelled different. "Where am I?" Jake asked, his voice rough and weak. Dr. Weltar heard him and called for Captain Vexhai. When the captain arrived, Jake tried to sit up, but his body was still too weak. "Please stay calm," Vexhai said in careful English. "You are safe. We are Ketherans. We found you floating in space near New Geneva." Jake's eyes went wide. "New Geneva? How long have I been out there?" 3 months, Vexhai answered gently. Jake closed his eyes and took a shaky breath. 3 months. I thought I was going to die in that pod. "What happened there?" Vexhai asked. "We heard that no one survived the Zephyrian attack." Jake looked at him for a long moment. Then he began to talk. He told them about the day the Zephyrian ships arrived, how they came without warning and started destroying everything. He talked about the evacuation that went wrong, about watching his friends die, about floating in space while enemy ships hunted for survivors. "They killed everyone," Jake said, his voice breaking. "Men, women, children, it didn't matter to them, they just wanted us all dead." Vexhai felt anger rise in his chest. The Ketherans were peaceful, but they hated cruelty. What the Zephyrians had done was wrong. Why did they attack? Vexhai asked. Because we exist, Jake said bitterly. The Zephyrian Empire thinks humans are a threat. They want to wipe us out before we get too strong. New Geneva was just the beginning, Jake told them more over the next few days. He explained how the Zephyrians had been attacking human colonies one by one, how they used terror to make other species afraid to help humans, how they planned to attack Earth itself. My people think everyone at New Geneva is dead, Jake said. They don't know I survived. They don't know what I learned about Zephyrian battle plans. Then we must get you home, Vexhai said. Jake looked surprised. You would do that? It's dangerous. If the Zephyrians catch you helping me, Vexhai stood up straight. The Ketherans believe in doing what is right. You needed help, so we helped you. Now you need to get home, so we will take you home. But your people could get hurt because of me. That is a chance we will take, Vexhai said firmly. No one should die alone in space when help is possible. Jake felt tears in his eyes. After months of floating in darkness, thinking he would never see home again, these alien strangers were risking everything to save him. Thank you, he whispered. Vexhai placed a gentle hand on Jake's shoulder. Rest now. We have a long journey ahead of us. As Jake fell asleep, Vexhai went to the bridge. He ordered his crew to set course for human space. It would be dangerous flying through Zephyrian territory, but it was the right thing to do. None of them knew that this simple act of kindness would change everything. None of them knew that humanity had a very different idea about debts and honor than most species in the galaxy. They had rescued one human. Soon, they would learn what that really meant. The silent current shook as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge next to Captain Vexhai, staring at the sight ahead of them. Titan Base hung in space like a metal city, with dozens of human ships moving around it like busy insects. I never thought I would see home again, Jake said quietly. Vexhai watched the human ships with interest. They looked different from Catharan vessels. Where Catharan ships were smooth and curved, human ships were all angles and armor. They looked ready for war. Titan Base, this is Lieutenant Jake Morrison aboard the Catharan vessel Silent Current. Jake spoke into the communication system, requesting permission to dock. I have important information for Admiral Kane. The response came back quickly. Jake Morrison, you're supposed to be dead. What's your authorization code? Jake gave them his code and explained briefly what had happened. Within minutes, they had permission to dock. As the Silent Current moved toward the base, Jake could see human fighters escorting them. The pilots were being careful but not threatening. Your people are very cautious, Vexhai observed. We have to be, Jake replied. Too many good people have died because we trusted the wrong aliens. When they docked, Admiral Lisa Kane was waiting for them. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind her stood several officers and guards. Jake stepped off the ship first, wearing a clean uniform that Dr. Weltar had made for him. Admiral Kane looked him up and down, then stepped forward and hugged him. We thought you were dead, son, she said. The whole colony, everyone. Almost everyone, Jake said. If not for Captain Vexhai and his crew, I would be dead too. Admiral Kane turned to look at Vexhai as he stepped off his ship. The Catharan captain was tall and thin, with blue-green scales and large, intelligent eyes. He moved carefully, clearly nervous about being on a military base. Captain Vexhai, Admiral Kane said, stepping forward. On behalf of humanity, thank you for saving one of our own. Vexhai bowed slightly. We did what anyone should do. Lieutenant Morrison needed help. Not everyone would have risked their ship to save a stranger, Admiral Kane replied. Come, we have much to discuss. They went to Admiral Kane's office, a simple room with star charts covering the walls. Jake sat down and began telling his story again, but this time he included everything he had learned about the Zephyrian Empire. They're planning something big, Jake said. I heard the commanders talking when they thought I was unconscious. They want to attack Earth directly within 6 months. Admiral Kane leaned forward. Are you certain? Yes, ma'am. They said the outer colonies were just practice. Earth is their real target. They want to end the human threat once and for all. What else did you learn? Jake told her about Zephyrian ship designs, their weapons, their tactics. He had been a prisoner for weeks before escaping, and he had used that time to observe everything he could. This information could save millions of lives, Admiral Kane said. Maybe billions. There's something else, Jake continued. The Zephyrians are angry about species that help humans. They want to make examples of them. They're planning to attack anyone who aids human refugees. Vexahai's eyes widened. They would attack peaceful species just for helping others? Whoa. Zephyrian Empire doesn't care about peace, Jake explained. They only understand strength and fear. Admiral Kane turned to Vexahai. Captain, your people could be in danger. The Zephyrians might trace your ship's route and figure out that you helped Jake. We considered this possibility, Vexahai said, calmly. But we could not leave a person to die in space. That would be wrong. Jake looked at the alien captain with new respect. You knew helping me was dangerous, but you did it anyway. Of course, Vexahai replied, as if the question was strange. How could we do anything else? Admiral Kane studied the Ketheron for a moment. Your people are remarkable, Captain. I wish more species in the galaxy thought like you do. Over the yo. Next few hours, Jake gave a detailed report to Admiral Kane's intelligence team. Everything he had seen, everything he had heard, every detail about Zephyrian ships and weapons. The information was incredibly valuable. Meanwhile, Vexahai met with human scientists and doctors. They were amazed by Ketheran medical technology. The devices that had saved Jake's life were far ahead of anything humans had developed. Your healing machines could revolutionize human medicine, Dr. Patricia Stone told Vexahai. How do they work? Vexahai explained the principles behind Ketheran. Medical technology. The human doctors listened with fascination and took careful notes. Would your people be willing to share this knowledge? Dr. Stone asked hopefully. The Ketherans believe knowledge should be shared freely, Vexahai replied. We would be happy to teach you. That evening, Admiral Kane called Jake and Vexahai to her office again. This time her expression was grim. We've confirmed Jake's intelligence, she said. Our long-range scouts have detected massive Zephyrian fleet movements. They're definitely planning something big. What will you do? Vexahai asked. We're mobilizing every ship we have to defend Earth, Admiral Kane replied. Thanks to Jake's information, we might actually have a chance. What about other species the Zephyrians might attack? Jake asked. Admiral Kane looked uncomfortable. We can't protect everyone, Jake. We barely have enough ships to protect ourselves. Jake stood up. Admiral, with respect, these people saved my life. They risked everything to bring me home. We can't just abandon them. I understand how you feel, son, but... No, you don't understand. Jake interrupted. Captain Vexahai didn't save me because he wanted something in return. He saved me because it was the right thing to do. That's who the Ketherans are. And if we let the Zephyrians destroy them for helping us, then what does that say about who we are? Admiral Kane was quiet for a moment. Then she turned to Vexahai. Captain, do you have a way to contact your homeworld? Yes, but it would take several days for a message to reach them. Send a warning. Tell them to be ready for possible Zephyrian attacks. It's not much, but it's what we can do right now. Vexahai nodded. Thank you, Admiral. I will send the message immediately. As Vexahai left to contact his people, Admiral Kane turned back to Jake. You're right, you know. We do owe them a debt. But I have to think about the survival of our entire species. I know, ma'am. But there has to be a way to do both. To protect Earth and help the people who helped us. Admiral Kane looked at the star charts on her walls. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrian Empire was preparing for war. And somewhere else, peaceful species like the Ketherans were about to become targets just for showing kindness to humans. Maybe there is a way, she said finally. But it would be risky. And it would require people willing to volunteer for a very dangerous mission. Jake straightened up. What kind of mission? Admiral Kane looked at him carefully. The kind where you might not come home. Admiral, those people saved my life when they didn't have to. If there's a way to return the favor, I want to help. Admiral Kane nodded slowly. I thought you might say that. Let me think about this. In the meantime, get some rest. You've been through enough for one day. As Jake left the office, he thought about Captain Vexhai and the Catherine crew. They had risked everything to save a stranger. Now it was humanity's turn to decide what kind of people they really were. Outside the windows of Titan Base, the stars looked the same as always. But Jake knew that everything was about to change. The Zephyrians thought they could terrorize the galaxy into submission. They were about to learn that they had made a serious mistake. They had messed with the wrong species, and they had hurt the friends of humanity. That was something humans never forgave. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the newly renamed vessel Silent Current in honor of Captain Vexhai's ship. Around him, his crew worked at stations that looked nothing like normal human equipment. Catherine technology had been integrated into every system, creating something entirely new. All ships report ready, Commander, said his communications officer, Lieutenant Sam Davis. Jake looked at his tactical display. 43 ships had volunteered for this mission. Not all of them were military vessels. Some were converted cargo ships and research vessels, crewed by civilians who refused to stay behind. Each ship had been fitted with the revolutionary, human Catherine hybrid technology. Captain Vexhai, Jake said, turning to the Catherine officer who stood beside him. Are your people ready? Vexhai nodded, though Jake could see he was nervous. The refugee ships are prepared to follow your plan, Commander, though I still worry about asking civilians to fight. They're not really fighting, Jake replied. They're using their knowledge to save their own people. Sometimes that requires getting close to danger. Contact from the fleet, Lieutenant Davis reported. Captain Hayes on the Iron Will, Commander Nick Stone on the Thunderbolt, Commander Grace Chen on the Phoenix. All ships ready for faster than light. Jump. Jake took a deep breath. In a few minutes, they would drop into the Catherine system and face the Zephyrian occupation force. Intelligence said there were 30 enemy warships around Ketha Prime, with thousands of Zephyrian soldiers on the planet's surface. All ships. This is Commander Morrison, Jake said into his communication system. In 60 seconds, we jump into Catherine space. Remember, we're not just here to fight. We're here to save people and send a message. He paused. The message is simple. Humanity protects its friends. Anyone who hurts people for helping us will face the consequences. Let's go show them what those consequences look like. Jump in 10 seconds, called out his navigation officer. All ships execute jump. Space twisted around them, and suddenly they were back in the Catherine system. But this time, they were not alone. Zephyrian ships detected, reported his sensor operator Ensign Mary Kim. 31 vessels around Catha Prime, just like intelligence said. Are they moving to intercept us? Not yet. They seem surprised. I don't think they expected anyone to come back. Jake smiled grimly. They're about to learn a lot of things they didn't expect. All ships, move to attack formation. Remember the plan. The human Catherine fleet moved toward Catha Prime in a complex pattern that looked random but was actually carefully planned. The Catharan refugees in their small ships scattered throughout the formation, their advanced sensors scanning everything. Commander, came Captain Hayes' voice over the communication system. The Zephyrians are finally moving. Looks like they're forming a battle line between us and the planet. Perfect, Jake replied. That's exactly where we want them. The two fleets met in the space between Catha Prime's two moons. The Zephyrians, confident in their superior numbers, attacked in their traditional formation. They had no idea what they were facing. The first surprise came when their stealth ships, supposedly invisible, were immediately detected by Catharan sensors and destroyed by precisely targeted human weapons. The second surprise came when Zephyrian weapons, which should have disabled several human ships, did no lasting damage. Catharan healing beams repaired the damage almost as fast as it was inflicted. The third surprise came when human ships began moving through the battlefield with impossible precision, guided by Catharan navigation systems that could plot safe paths through the chaos of space combat. They're falling back, reported Captain Hayes. The Zephyrians are retreating toward the planet. Let them, Jake replied. That's where we want them anyway. The real battle began when the combined fleet reached Ketha Prime itself. The planet was still burning from the original attack, but Jake's sensors showed that millions of Catharans were still alive in underground shelters. There, said Captain Vexhai, pointing at the tactical display. The main Zephyrian base is in our old capital city. If we can take that, we can coordinate the rescue of our people. Commander, said Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster over the communication system, I'm reading massive shield generators around that base. Our weapons won't be able to break through. Then we don't break through, Jake replied. We go around. Amy, remember those Catharan particle beams we studied? Yes, sir. They're designed for asteroid mining, not combat. But they can punch through. Planetary crust, right? There was a pause. Oh, I see what you're thinking. It's crazy, but it might work. Jake turned to Captain Vexhai. We need some of your people to get close to that base. Close enough to use their mining beams to create tunnels under the shields. That would be very dangerous, Vexhai said. The mining ships would have to fly through heavy weapons fire. I know. I'm asking a lot. Vexhai was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke to the other Catharans on the bridge in their own language. One by one they nodded. We will do it, Vexhai said. These are our people down there, our children. We will not abandon them. The plan that followed was unlike anything in military history. Human warships provided cover fire while Catharan mining vessels, ships never designed for combat, flew directly toward the most heavily defended target on the planet. Zephyrian weapons lit up the sky, but the combined fleet's defensive systems were too good. Catharan healing beams kept the mining ships functional, while human fighters cleared paths through enemy interceptors. When the mining ships reached the planetary surface, they began drilling. Their particle beams, designed to cut through solid, rock-carved tunnels beneath the Zephyrian base's shields. Tunnels complete, reported Dr. Weltar from one of the mining ships. Human soldiers can approach the base from underground. What happened next was not really a battle. It was a rescue mission with shooting. Human Marines, guided by Catharan medical scanners that could detect life signs through solid matter, found and freed thousands of Catharan prisoners. The Zephyrian base fell within hours, not because of superior firepower, but because of superior cooperation. Human combat skills combined with Catharan precision and knowledge created something the enemy could not match. Commander Morrison, came a new voice over the communication system. This is Admiral Kane from Titan Base. Jake felt his heart jump. Admiral? How did you get through to us? We're not at Titan Base anymore, Admiral Kane replied. Look up. Jake rushed to the observation deck of his ship and looked up through the transparent aluminum windows. There, dropping out of faster-than-light travel, was the entire human defense fleet, hundreds of ships led by Admiral Kane's flagship. Admiral, what are you doing here? What about defending Earth? Change of plans, Commander. It turns out you were right about something important. What's that, ma'am? When word spread through human space about this mission, something happened. Other species started contacting us. Peaceful species that the Zephyrians have been threatening. They all want to join our alliance. Jake felt his eyes widen. An alliance. Seems that when you stand up to bullies, other people notice. We now have 12 different species offering to help defend Earth in exchange for our protection. Jake looked down at Ketha Prime, where rescue ships were landing to evacuate the surviving Catharans. He looked at the space around the planet, where the scattered remains of the Zephyrian occupation force were surrendering, rather than face the combined human Catharan fleet. So what happens now? He asked. Now we finish what we started, Admiral Kane replied. The Zephyrians wanted to rule the galaxy through fear. Instead, they've created something they never expected, a galaxy united against them. 3 days later, Jake stood in the rebuilt government center of Ketha Prime. Around him were representatives from over 20 different species, all signing the agreement that would become known as the Galactic Protection Alliance. Captain Vexhai approached him, carrying a small crystal device. Commander Morrison, Vexhai said, this is a memory crystal. It contains the story of everything that happened here, how one human was rescued, and how humanity came back to save us all. Why are you giving this to me? Jake asked. Because this story needs to be remembered, not just by Ketherans or by humans, but by everyone, so that future generations will know what can happen when good people refuse to abandon each other. Jake accepted the crystal and looked around at the gathering of species. Some were warriors, some were scientists, some were traders, but they all had one thing in common. They had all been threatened by the Zephyrian Empire, and they had all decided to stand together against it. You know, Jake said to Vexhai, when you rescued me from that escape pod, you probably thought you were just saving one person. Yes, Vexhai replied. That is exactly what I thought. You were wrong. You weren't just saving one human. You were starting a revolution. Vexhai looked puzzled. I do not understand. Jake smiled and gestured to the room full of allied species. Captain, when you saved me, you proved that there were still people in the galaxy who cared about doing the right thing. And when the Zephyrians tried to punish you for that kindness, humanity proved that good deeds should be rewarded, not punished. And now? Admiral Lisa Kane stood in the main briefing room at Titan Base, looking at the faces around the table. To her left sat Jake Morrison, now promoted to commander after his heroic escape from New Geneva. To her right sat Captain Ben Hayes, fresh from his rescue mission to Catharan space. Around the table were her best officers and several Catharan refugees, including Captain Vexhai. Let me be clear about our situation, Admiral Kane began. The Zephyrian Empire is planning to attack Earth in 4 months. We need every ship we have to defend our homeworld. At the same time, they have just committed genocide against the Ketherans for the crime of helping us. She paused and looked around the room. Command wants me to focus only on defending Earth. They say we cannot spare ships to help others. With respect, Admiral, Jake said. I disagree. All eyes turned to him. Jake stood up, his voice steady and strong. The Catharans saved my life when they had nothing to gain from it. Captain Vexhai and his crew risked their ship to bring me home. Now their entire civilization is being destroyed because they showed kindness to a human. He looked directly at Admiral Kane. If we abandon them now, what does that make us? Are we really worth saving if we won't save others? Captain Ben. Hayes nodded. Commander Morrison is right. I've seen what the Zephyrians did to Keitha Prime. 50 million people dead, cities burning, all because they helped one of us. I understand your feelings, Admiral Kane replied, but I have a duty to protect humanity first. We cannot save everyone. Maybe we can't save everyone, Jake said. But we can try to save the people who saved us. Captain Vexhai spoke up quietly. Admiral Kane, we do not expect humans to risk their lives for us. We understand that you have your own people to protect. That's exactly the problem, Jake said, turning to the Catharan captain. You don't expect anything from us. You saved me because it was right, not because you wanted payment. But humans, we don't work that way. Jake looked around the room. Humans remember debts. We remember kindness. And we remember when good people get hurt because of us. Admiral Kane was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. What are you proposing, Commander? A volunteer mission, Jake said immediately. Anyone who wants to go can go. Anyone who wants to stay and defend Earth can stay. We're not weakening Earth's defenses because we're only taking volunteers. A volunteer mission to do what exactly? To take back Keitha Prime. To show the Zephyrians that genocide has consequences. To prove that humanity protects its friends. Captain, Hayes leaned forward. It could work, Admiral. My reconnaissance mission showed that the Zephyrians left only a small occupation force at Keitha Prime. Most of their fleet moved on to attack other peaceful species. How small? Admiral Kane asked. Maybe 30 ships. Still dangerous, but not impossible to defeat if we're smart about it. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster, the fleet's chief engineer, spoke up. Admiral, I've been working with the Catharan scientists. Their technology is amazing. If we combine human weapons with Catharan sensors and medical technology, we could create something the Zephyrians have never seen before. She activated a holographic display showing ship designs. Look at this. Catharan medical scanners can detect ships through stealth fields. Their healing beams can repair battle damage in real Time. Their navigation systems are so precise they can plot courses through asteroid fields at high speed. And human weapons? Admiral Kane asked. Human weapons are designed for war, Amy continued. Catharan technology is designed for peace. But, put them together. We could build ships that fight and heal at the same time, Jake finished. Ships that can see enemies the Zephyrians can't hide, and survive damage that would destroy normal vessels. Admiral Kane studied the displays. How long would it take to retrofit ships with this combined technology? 2 weeks? Maybe 3, Amy replied. But only if the Catharans are willing to share their most advanced systems. Captain Vexhai looked at the other Catharan survivors. They spoke quietly in their own language for a moment. Then he turned back to the humans. We will share everything, he said. Our people are dying because we helped you. If our technology can help save them, then use it. Admiral Kane looked around the room. Even if we could build these hybrid ships, we would still be outnumbered. 30 Zephyrian warships against how many volunteers? I'll go, Jake said immediately. And me, added Captain Hayes. Count me in, said Amy Foster. One by one, other officers around the table volunteered. Within minutes, half the people in the room had agreed to join the mission. This is madness, Admiral Kane said, but Jake could hear something else in her voice. Pride, maybe. Or hope. Admiral, Jake said, word is already spreading through the fleet about what happened to the Catharans. Do you know what the crews are calling them? No, what? Jake's Angels. Because they saved Jake Morrison, and Jake Morrison brought us the intelligence that might save Earth. Admiral Kane raised an eyebrow. Jake's Angels? Yes, ma'am. And every human who hears that story gets angry. Not just angry at the Zephyrians for being cruel. Angry at themselves for not being there to help when the Catharans needed us. Captain Hayes nodded. Admiral, I've never seen morale like this. Crews are volunteering faster than we can process them. Engineers are working double shifts to retrofit ships. Everyone wants to be part of this mission. Why? Admiral Kane asked. Because it's the right thing to do. Jake replied simply. And because it proves something important about who we are. Dr. Weltar, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Admiral Kane, may I say something? Of course, Doctor. In all our studies of different species, we have learned that most intelligent beings think first of themselves, then of their own kind, then of others. This is natural and logical. He paused. But humans are different. When someone helps a human, all humans feel responsible for that debt. When someone hurts a friend of humanity, all humans take it personally. This is not logical, but it is powerful. Admiral Kane looked at the Catharan doctor. You're saying we're crazy. No, Dr. Weltar replied with what might have been a smile. I am saying you are dangerous to your enemies. Admiral Kane was quiet for several minutes, studying the faces around her. Finally, she spoke. Very well. Commander Morrison, you will lead this volunteer mission. Captain Hayes, you will be his second in command. Lieutenant Commander Foster, you have 3 weeks to retrofit as many ships as possible with Catharan technology. She stood up. But I want to be clear about something. This mission is voluntary. Anyone who goes might not come back. We are going, up against an empire that has conquered half the galaxy. Jake stood up too. Admiral, the Catharans faced the same odds when they decided to rescue me. They went into Zephyrian space to save one human they barely knew. Now we go to save them. There's one more thing, Admiral Kane said. If this mission succeeds, it will not just save the Catharans. It will send a message to every species in the galaxy. A message that humanity keeps its promises and protects its friends. And if we fail? Captain Hayes asked. Admiral Kane looked out at the stars. If we fail, at least we fail trying to do the right thing. And maybe that message will be enough. As the meeting ended and people began to leave, Captain Vexhai approached Jake. Commander Morrison, he said, why are humans willing to risk so much for us? Jake thought for a moment. Captain, you saved me because it was right. You didn't think about the cost or the danger. You just did what needed to be done. Yes, that is correct. Well, now we're doing what needs to be done. It's that simple. Vexhai looked puzzled. But you could lose many ships, many lives. Jake smiled. Captain, you're thinking like a peaceful species. You're thinking about the cost. But humans, when someone hurts our friends, we don't think about cost. We think about justice. As Jake walked away to begin planning the mission, Vexahai realized something important. The humans were not just coming to rescue the Catharans, they were coming to teach the Zephyrian Empire a lesson. And somehow, Vexhai thought, he felt sorry for the Zephyrians. Captain Ben Hayes gripped the armrests of his command chair as his destroyer, the Iron Will, dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Catharan star system spread out before them, and what he saw made his blood run cold. "My God," whispered his tactical officer, Lieutenant Carol Martinez. What happened here? The once peaceful system was full of wreckage. Broken pieces of Catharan ships floated everywhere like metal snow. In the distance, they could see the beautiful blue-green world of Ketha Prime, but even from here they could see the fires burning on its surface. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple Zephyrian signatures," reported his sensor operator, Ensign Paul Jackson. "At least 20 warships around the planet." "Any Catharan ships still fighting?" "A few, sir. But they're running, not fighting. Their ships weren't built for war." Ben felt sick to his stomach. 3 weeks ago, Admiral Kane had sent him on this reconnaissance mission to check on the Catharans. Jake Morrison had insisted that humanity needed to know if their rescuers were safe. Now Ben wished he had come sooner. "Sir, I'm detecting several small ships heading our way," Paul reported. "They're Catharan and they're moving fast." "Zephyrians chasing them?" "Yes, sir. 3 enemy fighters closing fast on the refugee ships." Ben didn't hesitate. "Carol, target those Zephyrian fighters." "Paul, open a channel to the Catharan ships." "Channel open, sir." "Catharan vessels, this is Captain Ben Hayes of the human ship Iron Will. We are here to help. Please adjust your course to follow us to safety." The response came back in broken English. "Human ship, thank the stars. We cannot fight them." "You don't need to fight them," Ben replied. "We will." The Iron Will turned toward the approaching Zephyrian fighters. The enemy ships were fast and deadly, but they had not expected to find a human warship here. Ben's crew was ready for a fight. "Fire," Ben ordered. The Iron Will's weapons lit up space. The first Zephyrian fighter exploded in a ball of flame. The second one tried to turn away, but Carol's aim was perfect. It disappeared in another bright flash. The third fighter managed to get off a few shots before Ben's ship destroyed it too. The Catharan refugee ships were safe. "Catharan vessels, please come aboard our ship," Ben said. "We need to know what happened here." An hour later, Ben sat in his briefing room with 5 Catharan survivors. They looked scared and tired. One of them was Captain Vexhai, the same Catharan who had rescued Jake Morrison. "Captain Vexhai," Ben said. "Jake Morrison told us about how you saved his life. We came as soon as we could." "You came back for us?" Vexhai asked, sounding surprised. "But why? You have your own war to fight." "Because that's what humans do," Ben replied simply. "You helped one of ours, so we help you. Tell me what happened. Here." Vexhai's story was horrible. 2 days after returning from Titan Base, Zephyrian ships had appeared in the Catharan system. They had not demanded surrender. They had not asked for anything. They had simply started shooting. They destroyed our defense platforms first, Vexhai explained. "Not that we had many. We are not a military people." Then they began attacking our research stations and civilian ships. "What about your government?" Ben asked. "Did they try to negotiate?" "They tried," said another Catharan, Dr. Weltar. "The Zephyrians sent one message. They said that anyone who helps humans will be destroyed completely. No exceptions." Ben felt anger burning in his chest. The Zephyrians were not just fighting a war. They were committing genocide against innocent people. "How many of your people escaped?" he asked. "Perhaps 10,000, Vexhai said sadly. There were over 50 million Catharans in this system." Ben closed his eyes for a moment. 50 million people, dead because they had shown kindness to a human, sir, came Paul's voice over the communication system. We're detecting more Zephyrian ships approaching. A lot more. Ben stood up. How many? At least 50 warships, sir. They're coming from the outer system. They must have detected our arrival, Carol added. We need to leave now, if we're going to escape. Ben looked at the Catharan survivors. Their people were dying, their homeworld was burning, and it was humanity's fault. But what could one human ship do against 50 Zephyrian warships? Captain Vexhai, how many other refugee ships are in this system? Perhaps 30 or 40 small vessels, Vexhai replied. They are hiding in asteroid fields and behind moons. But the Zephyrians are hunting them down one by one. Ben made his decision. Paul, send a message to all Catharan ships in the system. Tell them to come to these coordinates. We're going to get them out of here. Sir, Carol said carefully, our ship can't protect that many refugees from 50 Zephyrian warships. Then we better be smart about it, Ben replied. Paul, plot a course through the asteroid belt. If we're lucky, we can use the rocks to slow down their big ships. And if we're unlucky? Carol asked. Then we die trying to save the people who saved Jake Morrison. The next few hours were the longest of Ben's life. The Iron Will moved carefully through the asteroid field, collecting Catharan refugee ships. Each time they found survivors, Ben felt a mixture of relief and guilt. Relief that these people were alive, guilt that so many others were dead. The Zephyrian fleet followed them into the asteroids, but the big warships had trouble moving between the floating rocks. Ben used every trick he knew, hiding behind asteroids, using the rocks to break up enemy formations and always keeping moving. Sir, we have 32 Catharan ships with us now, Paul reported, but the Zephyrians are getting closer. How close? 10 minutes, maybe less. Ben looked at his tactical display. They were almost at the edge of the asteroid field. Once they reached open space, they could jump to faster-than-light travel, but they had to get there first. All ships, this is Captain Hayes, he said over the communication system. In 5 minutes, we're going to make a run for the system edge. Stay close to my ship and follow exactly where I go. The run to safety was terrifying. Zephyrian fighters swarmed around them, firing at everything that moved. Ben's crew fought back as hard as they could, but there were too many enemy ships. We're not going to make it, Carol said as explosions lit up space around them. Then something unexpected happened. The Catharan ships began working together in ways Ben had never seen before. Their advanced sensors guided human weapons with perfect accuracy. Their medical ships used their healing beams to repair damage to the Iron Will's armor. Captain, said Dr. Weltar, who had remained on Ben's bridge, our ships are not built for war, but we are very good at working together. With Catharan help, the Iron Will fought its way to the system edge. One by one, the refugee ships jumped to safety. Finally, only Ben's ship remained. Jump now, Carol urged, but Ben waited until the last Catharan ship was safely away. Only then did the Iron Will disappear into faster-than-light travel, leaving the Zephyrian fleet behind. Hours later, safe in human space, Ben sat with Captain Vexhai again. Thank you, Vexhai said simply. You risked your ship and crew to save people you barely know. You saved Jake Morrison when you barely knew him, Ben replied. Same thing. No, Vexhai said. It is not the same thing. We saved one person. You came back for thousands. Ben looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrian Empire thought they had won a great victory. They had destroyed the Catharan homeworld and killed millions of innocent people. They thought this would make other species afraid to help humans. They were wrong. Captain Vexhai, Ben said, I need you to send a message to every Catharan ship in the galaxy. Tell them that humanity remembers its debts. Tell them that anyone who helped humans has our protection. But Captain, you cannot protect everyone. Your fleet is not large enough. Ben smiled grimly. You don't know humans very well yet, do you? When someone hurts our friends, we don't just get mad, we get even. As the Iron Will headed back to Titan Base with its cargo of refugees, Ben was already planning. The Zephyrians wanted to make an example of the Catharans. Fine. Humanity would make an example of the Zephyrians. They had made their biggest mistake when they decided to punish kindness with death. Because humans, Ben knew, were very good at protecting the things they cared about, and they had just learned to care about the Catharans very, very much.